Hey the YouTube, it's your boy Lipid out here with another Newsday Tuesday. Today we got Kim.com is in mega big trouble by Fireship. Let's get right into it, shall we? Hit it.
Kim.com. He's been called the Titan of terabytes, the El Chapo of file sharing, and the king of copyright infringement. If you don't know him, he's
the king of copyright infringement.
Hacker and mega businessman who ran a digital empire called Mega in the early...
To be fair, Mega Upload is still massive. Like there's no question of it. It's just called Mega right nowadays, and it's just still like solid.
2000s. Its cash cow Mega Upload had millions of daily active users and brought in over 175 million in revenue. The website was brilliant, both for its user-friendly front-end UI and distributed back-end that allowed people to share massive files around the world, which was almost unheard of at the time. There was just one problem. The website made its money by selling ads, and those ads were served primarily on pirated material, like movies, music, and software. In 2012, the FBI shut down Mega Upload and raided Kim's mansion in New Zealand, but for the last decade, he's managed to avoid extradition to the United States and has remained a high-profile rich dude. That is until yesterday, when a New Zealand judge ruled that he could be handed over to the United States to be tried as a pirate. In today's video, we'll look at the mega crazy story of Kim.com and the technical features behind Mega Upload. It is August 15th, 2024, and you're watching The Code Report. Kim Schmitz is a German hacker who got famous as a teenager when he hacked into NASA and the Pentagon. That's pretty based, but in 1994, he was arrested for selling hacked phone numbers, then convicted of more hacking charges in 98, but never did any significant jail time because the judge chalked it up to youthful foolishness. He then pushed his luck further in 2001 when he bought a bankrupt website called letsbuyit.com during the Dotcom crash. He told everyone he was going to pump a bunch of money into it, and after the stock went up, he dumped it for a quick profit. He was doing pump and dump rug pulls before they were cool. He tried to move to Thailand and fake his own death, but once again was arrested and once again received a suspended sentence.
Well, just does a pump and dump, goes to Thailand, tries to fake his death, gets caught, then still gets freed because he's still young. Fair enough. My man's had a interesting life.
He eventually immigrated to New Zealand on an investor visa, and that brings us to 2005 and the rise of Kim's mega empire. It was a collection of websites that did everything from payment processing to philanthropy,
Did not know that.
But its core service was file uploads, like a precursor to Dropbox or Google Drive. Its HTML-based UI was faster and easier than iTunes, but most importantly, it allowed anyone to upload extremely large files. These uploads could be paused and resumed, and each download would generate a unique link that could be shared with your friends. And they were able to scale to a massive level with techniques like file deduplication, where a hash is generated for a file, so if you try to upload the same pirated Seinfeld episode twice, it only actually takes up the space of one file. Mega also had a certain level of security and
that is fascinating. So if it's the same hash, the same type of file, it just doesn't need to keep the second copy. Oh, that's smart. Wow.
To protect user data, but it wasn't totally anonymous, and after the seizure, none of the users got their data back, although Mega Upload continues to live on as Mega. Nowadays, Mega uses zero-knowledge encryption, where data is encrypted on both the client and the server, so no third party, including Mega, can know what you uploaded. What was absolutely genius, though, is that Mega Upload had an affiliate program that rewarded users for generating downloads, which eventually snowballed into Mega accounting for 4% of global internet traffic and wheelbarrows filled with money for Kim. Unfortunately, the party came to an end in 2012 when the website was shut down, the servers were seized, and Kim's New Zealand mansion was raided. They took everything, including his Toyota Velfire. Now, Uncle Sam has been trying to get his hands on him ever since, but New Zealand screwed up.
What's fascinating is really back then, like, when you had Mega, I think Mega Upload, the only other one I think I remember was Forshared as well, was big. And I think it was during the time where torrents were coming up online. I think you definitely had the Pirate Bay and all those other main websites, but Mega was by far the most popular. I think it's just people would just upload like entire TV shows and just be sharing their links around. It was a wild time, bro. I'm not pretending as though it's not happening anymore, but those times were crazy.
Search warrant and spied on him illegally, and his extradition has been delayed multiple times. But now it looks like the walls are closing in, and the United States has the green light to take him. In addition, last year, 2 former Mega Upload executives were sentenced to prison, but the real guy they want to make an example of is Kim.com. They say he cost the entertainment industry $500 million, but there's multiple philosophical debates to be had here. Like, is piracy actually theft? Is privacy a fundamental right for people on the internet? And should cloud providers retain data and give access to...
Okay, so these are actually very interesting questions. Is piracy theft? It depends. I honestly look, this is such a hard question to even remotely get it right. I imagine from activists and people who are actually closer informed about that topic might have a better answer. But in my opinion, if there is something that is no longer being sold officially, that can still meaningfully generate money for the actual creators, to the actual like producers, to the actual movies, the film studio. And in that case, yeah, I think piracy would be justified, because in that case, it's not theft. Theft would then imply that there is something that is on the open market that you could buy. But if there is nothing that you could buy on the open market, then technically speaking, it's not theft, because you're stealing something that does not exist. So you can make that argument for sure. It's kind of it's one of those things I hate about Nintendo, is because, like, you know, you have all these old games that are floating online for like obscene prices, and Nintendo knows that, hey, there's a vast group of people that would love to play some of the old Mario games, the old Donkey Kong games, the old Metroid games. But what are they doing? They want to just not re-release it as like physical copies or anything else like that. They just want to later down the line have an online server or online, like, you know, service where you can pay per month and then get access to playing those games. And sure, fair enough, if it's in your IP, you know, it's in your intellectual property, it's your ability to do what you want with the product and service that you have created, but that does not exchange for the fact that there is still a massive market that is still willing to pay for a physical copy. Because I think I speak for most people when I say, unless you own a physical copy of something, you don't really own a copy of anything. And I understand the whole concept of ownership and, you know, saying that if you own a copy, you don't actually have rights to the actual thing you're owning. Fair enough. You're just owning that single copy of whatever it is you bought. If you bought a game, you have full possession over that copy of that specific game. Like even for Switch, like the Nintendo Switch, you buy a cartridge, you own that cartridge. Fair enough. Now, that being said, what do I think about, like, you know, game cartridges that basically like force you to have a download, like, or there are even like some physical games that just have like a download code, in which case I still think that that's not actually owning a copy of the game, because the concept behind the point of is piracy theft depends purely on whether or not what you're trying to get your hands on is still available on the open market. And if it's not available on the open market, you can make the argument that, well, if it's no longer being sold, it's not really theft, is it? Which is, you can have like many older like 1960s, 1950s movies that just aren't being sold anymore. You don't find them ever. And the original studios that made them have all gone like defunct. So if you really want to get your hands on it and you pirate it, that's not theft, because there's no other way to get it. So that's, I think, the argument in that, right? Is privacy a right? Yes, I genuinely do believe yes. But depends on where you're going to go on and start holding different like sites to different rules. Because if you go on a public platform like, you know, Facebook or Twitter, then I think privacy right depends on if you post something publicly and then everyone sees what you post. That's not really private. That's, you know, that's you putting something out there in the public domain. But if you really think about something that's like, is privacy a right? Sure, if you own a device, I'd love to know that, you know, the things like photos I take on my phone, stay on my phone, are private. I really would appreciate that. But I think everyone on the open internet already has an idea that if you take a photo or you do something on your phone, more likely than not, the government probably has, or like, you know, the CIA, the NSA, probably has a way to access it digitally, somehow. Like, there's not much on the way of saying that something stored locally is going to, like, on your computer, on your PC, or on Mac, is just going to stay there locally. Sure, until you start uploading into, like, you know, an online storage space. Like, for example, at work, we use Google Workspace. So it's like, let's not pretend that you're uploading these documents to a remote hardware somewhere on the planet, and that is, like, multiple copies. Oh, it's be foolish to think that people don't have access to those files. For sure, they do. The question you're going to ask is, would you appreciate the redundancy of your data not being lost when uploaded online versus the pure privacy of only having one copy, and if something happens to it, you don't really get to, you know, make sure you get your copy back? But I think that would be a bad argument, basically saying, well, taking redundant copies is not really a way of breaking privacy. What is a way of breaking privacy is, you know, these massive government companies would probably have back doors in for the government. So the government comes in and snoops in and basically says, hey, we kind of want to look at all the data you have from this geographical area. Those companies will comply. It's one of those things with every American company. If you get big enough, the government will contact you and just say, hey, by the way, backdoor, please. 100%. When the whole argument with Apple, and I'm just putting the name out here because it was an example, when Apple and the feds had a whole argument of breaking into the iPhone, personally, in my mind, yes, it was the feds basically going to Apple and making a whole deal of, oh no, your phone is too secure, could you help us unlock it? And Apple's argument response was, we can give you a master key because it'll be used to unlock any iPhone. We just can't do that. And that kind of situation died down. But I think everyone knew. I think every single person who was more informed about the matter already knew there were like security solutions on the market, especially Israeli ones and like, you know, really high level, like developed ones. Like Pegasus was a notorious one, especially in India. You would know a lot, you know, about like many journalists were targeted by it, where they didn't even, it was like a 0-day exploit. It wasn't like, sorry, zero touch exploit. You didn't have to do anything. You got a message or a call, you're hacked. Like your phone is just under the ownership of someone else. And what's crazy is there wasn't much you could do about it. And it's like, unless Apple was made aware that those were the security vulnerabilities that were being used, it's still being used to make a profit off of people who want to break into your devices. They cost a lot, for sure. With the Trump assassination happening, like the assassination attempt, the fact that they were able to break in onto the shooter's phone in less than a week was already proof to me that, yeah, they already knew they had access to the technology to break into phone. The question was whether it was not only publicly acceptable, but also the monetary value was acceptable to break in and see who was trying to do what, on how important of the person it was you were trying to protect. So the argument here is privacy is a right until someone decides that the security of the country or like the general group of people supersedes your right to privacy. And I think there's an argument to be made there, for sure. And should hosts give data to feds? Honestly, I don't think it's even their choice. I think it generally is like a government point of being, either you do this or we just don't let you do certain things that you'd like to do to make money. I think that's just the government threat, honestly. I think the government can get away with that as well. Because when you have a government that comes in and basically, like the US government at least, that comes in and basically says, hey, we want security for the people. But the moment you use that word and you start saying it's a trade-off between security and privacy, suddenly one has got to give. And if security takes precedence, privacy's got to give. And that's their argument. So that's still a discussion that's going on. I still think that's not a clear-cut case. But as I understand on how complicated the situation is, eventually people are going to make a choice. Because the moment you completely trade in for security and lose sight of privacy, it is not hard to go into a very, you know, authoritarian, like very closed off, like political system. Like there's not much you can do after that, really.
Government for criminal investigations. Some things are always morally correct, like
pirating. 100%
Adobe.
preach. 100%. Adobe being the scummy company they are, I am glad they're getting sued by the US government for how scummy they are. Thank God.
Products, but for many of these issues, there's no clear answer. Dotcom has been a huge advocate for privacy on the internet, and he's denied that Mega Upload was designed to encourage copyright infringement. Instead, it's just a content-neutral platform and shouldn't be liable, like in the same way that an internet service provider shouldn't be liable for illegal activity.
That is it, because I think they don't have a precedent set up for this. I think that's true. If you have a library with books that are banned in certain companies, you're not going to sue the library. Like, people can go in and get the books they want in a certain library in a neutral territory. The problem is they're making money off of it. That's the issue.
That argument's probably not going to work in federal court, but don't worry, Kim has a plan. Some people think he might slip away into Russia to go live with Tupac and Michael Jackson in Siberia. The only problem with that plan is that Russia's not very privacy focused and just recently banned the encrypted messaging app Signal.
And ironically, the more countries ban certain apps, you kind of get to know that app is really good at what it does. Then it really does what it says. So fair enough. Signal is doing bits. Fair enough.
For sure, though, Dotcom won't go to jail without a mega fight. This has been the
100%. Privacy advocates are going to fight for it, 100%. But yeah, that's about it for the Newsday Tuesday this week. My brothers and sisters, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Like, comment, subscribe, and I will catch you beautiful bastards next time. Peace. Take care. Noise.